New York is the heartbeat of the United States of America. As you reimagine and want to reinvent places like New York, you got to be thinking that you got to build things that are the best that they can be, things that are going to grab people's imagination, that are going to make people feel like this is the greatest city, this is the greatest place to be.
Today we sat down with Scott Rechler, innovative investor and developer committed to applying a customer and community-centered approach to building properties and services in New York City and beyond. Obviously you have a vested interest in the city because of your real estate footprint. What do you think have been some of the most successful real estate projects in New York in recent history?
I think it's going to be 175 Park Avenue that we're going to build, but that will be
the tallest building,
right,
they said, in the
exactly.
Western. That's crazy.
On Donald Trump's old Hyatt Hotel. It's interesting because there's good parallels there relative to what he did when he actually, that was called the Commodore Hotel, and the city was just coming out of a really tough time, and him building that Commodore Hotel, which was a public-private partnership, he actually lifted the city up and built the best hotel at that moment in time. We'll have the opportunity to actually sort of fulfill what was his original dream, which is a much taller building. And the top's going to be actually a hotel. So we'll have like this infinity pool that will look over.
Sounds a little spooky. Are you afraid of heights?
No, no.
For a while there was a dearth of interest here. But I mean, JP Morgan obviously building a huge presence. All of these companies wanted to continue to invest all through COVID, right? It didn't seem like we saw them really pulling back. What's your take on that?
There's been a flight to quality, and so when people want to go to buildings, they want to go to the better buildings. And so even when you look where the vacancy is, 80% of the vacancy is in 30% of the buildings. And you can even see it in the rents. We had 212 leases over 10 million square feet at over $100 rents last year, which is a new record. So people are paying to be in the good buildings.
So it's really sort of the haves and the have-nots now.
So as you reimagine and want to reinvent places like New York, you got to be thinking like that. You got to be thinking that you got to build things that are the best that they can be, things that are going to grab people's imagination, that are going to make people feel like this is the greatest city, this is the greatest place to be, this is the greatest company to work for.
You are super bullish on New York, which I love, and I'm very curious to hear why.
New York is the heartbeat of the United States of America, right? And it's the best and brightest people from around the world. Despite challenges, despite maybe not having great leadership at all times, right? Despite ourselves, we've been able to find a way to rebuild stronger post-COVID. It is the resiliency of the people of New York and how much New Yorkers care about New York. I think it differentiates it from some other large cities. It's a commitment to this community and to this city thriving is something that everyone really takes to heart.
Before this started, we were talking about you actually enjoy going to work in Midtown. I think you're one of the few. What makes you like Midtown?
I mean, if you look at Midtown, I mean, it is the sort of financial heartbeat of the city, right? I mean, this is where all the major financial service firms have relocated themselves. So you create places like Hudson Yards, which is a beautiful place, but that is man-made.
It's kind of an
today.
offshoot, yeah.
Right. And same thing now with the World Trade Center. You have that this down, but New York Midtown is authentic.
You were on the MTA board for a couple years. Yeah. What the hell's going on over there?
The thing with the MTA, it's such a big organization, and the budgets and the numbers they talk about, it's so hard to get your head around when they start talking about $30 billion capital plans, right? And when I was on the board, the big focus was how do you bring in projects at cost that makes sense, right? That it's one thing that you need money, but if you're going to be given the public's money, you got to spend that money responsibly and be committed to that and be transparent about that. And it is complex. There's a lot of regulatory challenges that over the years have been put in place, maybe for good reason, but it's layer and layer and layer of regulation. So if you're a contractor bidding on the MTA, there's a big risk.
Do you think those problems can get fixed? I mean, do you think the subways can be safe again and clean?
The answer is yes. I think it can be fixed. I think priorities got to be set. I think it needs good leadership generally across the spectrum here. When people live here, they know they're paying a premium to live in New York. And so for paying that premium, they need to make sure they have a quality of life that's worth that premium. And the most important thing there is public safety. And so to your point about the subway and the streets, that should be the number one priority.
There's some quote that people walk into Grand Central like gods and they walk into Penn Station like rats.
That's a good quote.
And it kind of, if you're in this beautiful space, it encourages imagination and
to your point, like what we make as a practice in our buildings, we actually rotate art through all of our buildings. And we look at art as a place to build community, to invoke imagination. This is more operational than design, but is a sense of hospitality. There was no such thing as a hospitality group in an office building or residential building before, but you activate the spaces, you create programming, you curate different things, you create moments where you can bring people together in the building so it feels like this sense of community.
Yeah, well, in a way people want community so badly, and I think there's such a hunger for that you can kind of facilitate that in a really special and unique way.
Right. New York, as I said in the beginning, has proven over and over that it can, rebuild itself bigger and stronger, but it's not something that's preordained. And it's something that, we can't take for granted. Or if we don't deal with this housing crisis and make it more affordable for people to live in New York or around New York, that with connectivity back, we're not going to be competitive anymore.